Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you at the next episode of our lectures related to marketing communication. Today we are going to talk about advertising. Advertising is the well-known part of marketing communication, and I think all of you already heard about advertising. So I think the introduction into this topic will be pretty short, and then we can continue with the real things related to advertising. So for the introduction, I would like to say you some interesting facts about advertising, because as I said, everyone knows advertisement, but we sometimes don't know the real money behind advertising, as well as we don't know how advertising really works. So let's talk about money. Just to imagine how big is the business behind the advertising, we can I can show you the numbers of investments into the advertisement. If you look at the year 2014, almost 60 billion crowns has been invested into the advertising in Czech Republic within 1 year. If you look at like 2 years back, in 2018, 113.5 billion Czech crown have been invested into the advertising, which is really crazy. If you look at the worldwide situation and worldwide investments into the advertising, the numbers are even bigger, which is obvious. But anyway, if we look again on 2014, 137.5 billion American dollars have been invested into the advertisement. Just to compare our budget, like state budget, the Czech Republic state budget for 2014 was about 55 billion American dollars. So you can see that this is really crazy amount of money which are invested into the advertising. So advertising is, at first, it's a communication tool, but as a second point, it's a business, and it's a huge business. Talking about advertisement and advertising, you can meet this is from the research of Philip Kotler, and he says that you can meet advertising every day, and you can meet from 500 to 1,500 advertisement incentives a day. Well, there were some researchers also in Czech Republic, and they gained similar numbers, but it was starting on 300 incentives a day, which is really crazy. And it says that advertising is all around us. Okay, so what is the advertising? Well, we can say, and you already know that advertising is a complex form of communication using objectives and strategies to impact consumer thoughts, feelings, and actions. So, in this relation, the advertising is a form of marketing communications, which is used to promote or selling something, usually business products or services, but it don't have to be only about those categories. You can sell through the advertising, for example, even the people or ideas or whatever you want. Okay. So advertising, the official advertising. I will show you two definitions. I would like to just, I don't need you to know all of them like word by word, but you should be able to recognize them. Okay, if you will see those definitions, you should know that this is the definition of advertising. So let's have a look on the first one, which is set by Advertising Association of the United Kingdom, And this definition says that advertising is a means of a communication with the users of a product or service. Advertisements are messages paid for by those who send them and are intended to inform or influence people who receive them. This is the British definition of advertising. If you look at the second one, which is American one, said by American Marketing Association. So this definition says that advertising is the non-personal communication of information, usually paid for and usually persuasive in nature, about products like goods and services. But we know, or you should know, that products are not just goods and services, but it could be, as I said, ideas, places, people, and so on and so on. So, oh yeah, and yeah, or ideas by identified sponsors through the various media. And if we talk what kind of media could be used for advertising, so the answer is pretty easy. Almost everything. Maybe not almost, but everything. Like really everything could be used for or as advertising media. There's a story about company Pepsi-Cola, and they, during the 80s, they wanted to put their advertising into the outer space. So like they were planning to put some like huge mirror on our orbit, and they tried, or they think to try to project the logo of Pepsi by lasers into that mirror. So just imagine the summer night, and you are watching the stars, moon, Pepsi logo, which is crazy. But I just would like to let you know that there was an attempt to do that. So and if we talk about the other medias, like everything could be used as an advertising medium. I don't know if you already seen that, but there could be also a printed advertising on a toilet paper, like crazy stuff. But anyway, still it's it could be considered as the advertising media. Okay, so what is the purpose? I would like to talk about two things. The first one is a purpose of advertising, and the second one is a function. They sometimes merge together, but let me explain them differently. Okay, so the first one, the purpose of advertising. As you probably know, advertising is the delivery tool to spreading the messages to customer and the prospective customer. And the purpose of advertising is to, let's say, convince customers that the company services or products are the best. Or the purpose could be to enhance the image of the company. Or we can point out and create a need for products or services. This is the purpose, which is where the advertising is really good in. So the creating needs. Okay, so next one, to demonstrate new uses for established products. As I said before, advertising is a communication tool, but also you can use advertising as a learning tool or teaching tool. You can teach people to do something with the product through the advertising. Okay, so what do we get next? Oh yeah, we can enhance new products and programs through the advertising, or the purpose is to reinforce the salespeople's individual messages, and or to draw customers to the businesses, and last but not the least, for sure, to hold existing customers. And if you remember our last lecture, we have been talking about keeping the existing customers. So this could be the good tool for it. Okay, so those are the purposes of advertising. And what about the function? This is pretty similar. And the main reason why we got advertising is that we can identify and also differentiate products among the others. Okay, so if you, like customers, go to the shop, and if you see some product, the advertising you saw before can help you to realize, oh, this is the product I want. Okay, the same is if you got same advertisement, or if you got two products with different advertisements, they can help you to differentiate those two products between them. Also, the other function is to communicate an information. As I said before, advertising is a communication tool. So also, advertisement can help you to induce consumers to try new products and to suggest reuse, like for the new and repeated consumers. Also, you can use advertising in order to stimulate distribution. This is like if you are the producer of product, and if you use advertising, the people, if you do everything right, the people could start to need your product, and then they can push on the retailer in order to having this product. So you can, like, indirectly push on retailers. Okay, so next thing is to build brand awareness, preference, and loyalty. And the last one, to lower the cost of sales. It's just pretty funny, because if you see how much you have to invest into the advertising, so you can say, this is something strange. How can I lower the cost of sales? Well, this is pretty easy, because if you compare it to the personal selling, where is some guy who is trying to sell a product, you have to pay his or her wage, you have to pay their time. And if you use advertising, you can talk to much more people in the same time. Like, if you got salesperson and he or she is able to talk with, like, say, I don't know, 10 people a day, in the same time, advertising could talk to like 10,000 or 10 million people in one time. So in this direction, advertising can really lower the cost of sales. Okay, now I would like to introduce you the main factors of advertising. They are related with the definitions of the advertising. So if I set some information within those definitions, they are already also in here. So we have been talking about advertising as a tool which is paid, usually paid according to the American Marketing Association. So in order to realize whether this communication is advertising or not, the link could be like the question whether the communication tool is paid or not. Okay, and in that case, the paid communication is the sign of advertising. Also, the sponsor is identified, the one who is promoting his brand or himself or something like that. Okay. Also, advertising tries to inform or persuade. Okay. Well, I think lots of tools of marketing communication could persuade, but advertising is the best one tool in this direction, in persuading consumers. Also, and this is really important, advertising can reach a large audience. As I said, you can talk in one time, in one moment, you can talk with a huge amount of people. Like if you use, for example, TV commercial, and when those people are watching TV, there could be like thousands of people watching the TV. So in one time you can talk like with huge amount of people. Yeah, and what this also important message conveyed through many different kinds of largely non-personal mass communication tools or media, if you want. Okay. Also, sometimes students ask me, how can I realize if some campaign or some advertising campaign is good or bad? Because, you know, sometimes, for example, if we talk about a TV commercial, you can see something which is really crazy, no one understands, or on the other hand, the advertising is really funny, it's nice, but it doesn't work at the end. And sometimes we have to ask the question, how can I realize whether the campaign was good or bad? So the main principle in this meaning is that an effective advertisement is one that can be proven to meet its objective. So if you set objective like, I want to persuade, I don't know, 1,000 consumers to visit my store, so any kind of advertising could be good in this direction or could be bad in this direction. Because if I will make a really funny advertising, but it won't be able to persuade consumers, it doesn't work, okay, at the end. So the main principle of any advertising is to be able to meet the objectives. So we have been talking about purpose, about function, about my main criteria of advertising, and now let me introduce the 4 roles of advertising. As everyone plays some special role within the life, also within the advertising, or the advertising plays some kind of roles. The first two of them are, I think, they are pretty easy to understand. The marketing role is pretty clear because we are talking about advertising as a tool of marketing communication, and we know already that marketing communication is a main part of marketing. It's a promotion part of marketing piece, okay? So then I think it's pretty easy to understand. Also, the communication role is is pretty easy to understand because, as I already said, through the advertising you can communicate with your consumers and you can spread your messages. Even though the advertising is mostly one-way communication, because there's, or let's say the feedback within this communication is a bit different than when we talk face to face, okay? Because if we can talk face to face, I can say something and you can say something in a reward. But in case of advertising, it's a bit different because as a company is trying to communicate something to the consumers probably won't be able to send the message back like okay or something like that. They have to do an action like to buy something, and to buy something after the advertising is a kind of reaction, is a kind of feedback. So sometimes we call it indirect feedback, okay? Just because the feedback is not direct and it's indirect through some other media or through some kind of action and so on, okay? Well, what is more important maybe is the economic role, but still I think I don't have to talk more about it because I showed you some numbers at the beginning of the lecture, and you can imagine how big business the advertising is, and you know, everything connected to advertising create another types of businesses and so on and so on. So the economic role is pretty important. I would like to talk more about the societal role, because we can find some people, or we have some people in this country or within all around the world who says, or they say, that advertising is bad and we don't need it. And I think that's wrong, because we really need advertising. Every person needs advertising, even if he or she thinks it's not true. I will tell you why in a few seconds. Let's have a look quickly on the economic role of advertising. As I said, advertising can helps you to lower the cost for selling, and also advertising creates a demand for a brand using hard sell, like persuading someone, and soft sells, like building the image. And those are the techniques which can be used for, let's say, improving economic part of your business, okay? And what about the societal role? Well, this is pretty interesting, because as I said, through its communication role, advertising can inform consumers about innovation and issues. So if there is some kind of innovation within the technological field in the country or within the world, advertising through the communicating new products or services can also inform about the technological things or the technological evolution within the economy. Okay. Also, advertising can help us to compare products and features. The third point is pretty interesting, because advertising can mirror fashion and design trends, but not just mirror. Advertising also can create those trends, okay? Because in some way, advertising has to mirror the trends, because if you will prepare advertising completely out of the trends, probably, mostly, this type of advertising will not meet the criteria of the consumers, because we, like consumers, we need to see those advertisements which are pretty close to our real world. Okay, so one basic thing in the advertising is the fact that advertising should mirror the real world, but it should also make it a bit better. Like, for example, if you will have an advertising for like some kind of bathroom cleaning supply, so the advertising can show you the real bathroom almost the same as you have, but a bit better, okay? Better, I don't know, floor or equipment and so on. So that's the reason, because you can see, or there is some kind of aspiration, and you can see like some dream world which you can be part, or you want to be a part of it. But the dream world has to be pretty similar to the real world. Okay, so that's the main, let's say, law of the advertisement, to show the real world, but a bit better than it really is. Okay. So also advertising can teach consumers about the new products and also how to use them. Sometimes it helps to shape consumer self-image, because you can, let's say, see yourself in some kind of advertisement. Like, for example, if there will be some kind of advertising for new phone, for example, and you can see that this phone is used by some handsome guy or some nice girl, so you can compare yourself to the actor within the advertising, and you can set your mind like, if I will have this phone, I will be the same handsome guy like this guy in this advertisement. I know that I'm making it too too easy to understand, and I'm missing some main psychological points within this process, but I would like to just to show you how this works. Okay. Also, this is connected with the previous point. It can facilitate self-expression through the purchases. Like, I will buy, for example, an iPhone, and I will be a part of iPhone community with all the social, economic things related to this group of consumers. Okay. And also, advertising can present images about the diversity in our world. And we can find lots of other things. We can add more and more things to the social role of advertising. Just simply put, advertising is really important in, let's say, in our society. And without the advertising, it could be really hard to, I don't know, to create some dream world, or to think about dream world, and so on and so on. And also, sometimes without the advertising, we won't be able to see our world from all the possible perspectives. So that's why. If we should do a classification of advertising, it could be also interesting. We can classify advertising according different categories. So let's have a look on some of them. We can do the classification according the target audience, and then we can talk about consumer advertising or business advertising. This is the main difference between those types of advertising. It's about on who you can aim, or who you can communicate to. So, like, consumer advertising is about aiming at the people who buy for their own use, like we consumers. And in case of business advertising, we are aiming at the people who buy for use in businesses. Okay. Also, we can do the classification according the geographic area. Like, we can have an international, or let's say global advertising, which is suitable for foreign markets. Also, we can have a national advertising, regional advertising, and a local advertising. More of the classification by the medium. You can classify, or you can sort the advertising according every medium, but we are trying to make some groups according the technology of the medium. So in this direction, we can talk about print advertising, like everything which is print, like newspapers, magazines, brochures, flyers, and so many other things. Also, we can have electronic advertising, like TV commercials, radio commercials, internet advertising, and so on and so on. Then if we look outside, we can find so-called outdoor advertising, like billboards, kiosks, public transport, events, and so on and so on. Then we get something which is really good to use, and it's called direct mail advertising. So you can use some kind of, let's say, postal service or email, but you can use those tools for talking with a specific consumer. That's why it's direct. And also the three letters POP, which is again really efficient way of advertising, and it's called point of purchase advertising. And those are those kinds of advertising which you can find within the stores, okay? And they can change your decision what to buy, and they are really efficient. If you look at the researchers, they say that this type of advertising is one of the most efficient type of advertising at all. Okay. Well, and the important question, how advertising works. And if we put this question, we need to add the second one. What do we really know? Because we know something, and our knowledge is becoming an obsolete really fast. Like if you look at the theory from like 20 or 30 years ago, you can see that by those times the researchers describe advertising in really different way than we do it right now. And so the theory is changing very quickly. And if you thinking about advertising, you have to take into account a huge amount of different things. So probably you may already heard about something what we call the AIDA model, which is the model, an acronym of the 4 letters describing the process of advertising. Why I'm showing this model, even if it's so obsolete, the reason is that like all or the huge amount of literature working with this model. So I will show it, and then I will tell you why it doesn't work. So if you look at this model, AIDA, there are 4 stages of advertising, of the work of advertising. Like we got awareness, then there should be some kind of interest, then a desire, and as a result of the previous 3, there should be some kind of action. But the thing is that this model is really obsolete. As I said, it's like more than 100 years old, I think. And as you can see maybe from your real life, this doesn't work, because sometimes we buy something and even without the advertising, or there should be some kind of desire. You know, the advertising could make some kind of desire without any interest and awareness, and you will buy the product, and so on and so on. So even as I said, even this model is a part of lots of literature, lots of books about advertising. Nowadays we consider this model to be good for explaining how personal selling works, but not for advertising. If we want to talk about advertising, we should take into an account the consumer behavior process. And that's the thing we talk about within the last lecture. I introduced you a basic model of consumer behavior. And if we want to understand how advertising works, we have to take into account the consumer behavior process. In this regard, we can find this basic model. Like you got like advertising input, which could be a message content, media scheduling, repetition, so many other things. Then everyone, like you or me, we got kind of filters in our minds. And those could be like motivation, ability, like involvement, and so on. Through those filters, there is a consumer, the person of consumer, or the personality of consumer. There is something what we call cognition, our ability to realize what's around us. Then there is some kind of affect and experience. And all those things somehow cooperate with the previous inputs. And as a result of this direction, there is a consumer behavior which is connected with choice, consumption, loyalty, habits, and so other things. And after the purchase, those things indirectly influence the next iteration of consumer buying process. Okay, but the story of how advertising works is really much bigger, and there is a huge amount of literature explaining how advertising works. So I will try to make it as simple as possible. So for you as a student, I think the sufficient information could be like that we get more than 7 models, like categories of models describing how advertising works. If you look at it, we got like market response models, cognitive information models, pure effect models, persuasive hierarchy models, low involvement hierarchy models, integrative models, and hierarchy-free models. And every category has a huge number of models describing how advertising works. So it's really hard to understand, and I don't want to mess your brains with those information. If you are if you are interested in this topic, and if you are questioning yourself how advertising works, I would like to let you know about the paper written by Demetrios Vakaratsas and Tim Embler in 1999, and the paper is called How Advertising Works, What Do We Really Know, as was the topic of the slide, the previous slide. So if you are interested, I will put this paper in some cloud, and you can download it and read it. It's really interesting. If you just go through, and you will realize how many different ways of the thing or the advertising process could be recognized. It's really interesting, and I highly recommend you to read the paper if you are interested in the topic. So, and just some parts from the paper. Those guys, they realize some main things, how advertising works and what is really working in the process. So they realize, for example, that experience, affect, and cognition are the 3 key intermediate advertising effects, and the omission of any of those 3 can lead to overestimation of the effect of the others. Okay. And also they realize that short-term advertising elasticities are small and decrease during the product life cycles. What else? In major frequently purchased packaged goods markets, returns to advertising diminish fast. A small frequency, therefore, is sufficient for advertising and established brands, which is really good to know. The concept of a space of intermediate effects is supported, but a hierarchy is not. And also, cognitive bias interferes with an effect measurements. And as I said, the paper is full of such kind of, let's say, knowledge about advertising. So I highly recommend you to read it. Okay, so one last thing. They also realized that the consumer's mind is not a blank sheet awaiting advertising, but it's rather something like already contains something conscious and unconscious memories of a product purchasing and a usage. So thanks to advertising, you can somehow exploit those knowledge of certain things, okay? Which is really important to know if you are creating an advertising campaign. If you realize that everyone has something in our minds. We got something. We know the stories, we know the fairy tales, we know the history, and so on and so on. And if we do an advertising which can, let's say, switch on the old story we know, then if you are able to connect the story with the product or brand, you can be really efficient within the marketing communication, or especially within the advertising communication. Few more things within the advertising. If you are in a stage that you need to develop an advertising campaign, you need to know something. At first, we should realize what is the advertising campaign, because there are some mixed knowledges about advertising campaign. But we can say that this is the coordinated, comprehensive plan that carries out a promotion objectives and it results in a series of advertisements placed in media over a period of a time. And also, if we want to make an advertising campaign, we need to have a creative strategy, which is the process that turns a concept into the advertisement. And within those fields, we can use advertising appeal. What does it mean to have an advertising appeal? Let's say advertising appeal is the main message of the advertising. Okay, this is the most difficult part of creating advertising, because you need to know how to use the appeal and also what kind of appeal to use. And I would like to show you the examples of advertising appeals within this presentation. As you can see, we got like in literature you can find mentions about like 40, maybe 50 advertising appeals that they can be used within the advertising campaign. But in this presentation, or the most used appeals are shown on this slide. You got like how much? Like 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 main advertising appeals. They are unique selling proposition, comparative advertising, demonstration, testimonial, slice of life, lifestyle, fear appeals, sex appeals, and humorous appeals. As you will see in those TV commercials, some of them are really good and they are really strong in their persuasive effect. But sometimes, especially within the humorous appeals, you will see that you can make a really funny advertising. But the thing is that at the end, the advertising doesn't work. Why? Because the last thing, if I will ask you what kind of company you've seen in the advertising, for some of you it will be really hard to realize what kind of company has been promoted with this advertising. But overall, it was a really funny commercial, right? Well, yeah, but it doesn't work.
Which lasts longer, Duracell Plus or those ordinary batteries? While Duracell keeps on running, the ordinary battery soon gives up. Uh-oh. No matter what they try, it won't help. With up to 4 times more power, Duracell always wins. Duracell lasts up to 4 times longer.
My máme perfektní nůž. Rukojeť má ještě jednu zvláštnost. Není jen dlouhá, ale sedí i skvěle v ruce a je zušlechtěná silikonovým kaučukem. Vůbec neklouže. I když mám mokré ruce, přesto nevyklouzne. Tady si vezmu ocelový hřebík. 4 cm dlouhý, více než 2 mm široký horstek.
Ocelový hřebík?
A co je tvrdší než hřebík? Samozřejmě kladivo, kterým se musí zatlouct. Jinak bychom ho nemohli použít. Podívej se sem. Nyní vezmu tuto pilku na kosti, kterou doma používáte na mražené potraviny. Na všechno to, co doposud nebylo možné. A vůbec nemusím tlačit. Přejedu jednoduše přes hřebík a jako by se nic nestalo, je hřebík pryč. Tato pilka z tohoto tvrzeného materiálu je oboustranně broušená, to znamená, neexistuje zaseknutí v mražených potravinách. Ještě tvrdší než mražené potraviny je toto tvrdé dřevo. Podívejte se, dámy a pánové. Tady by vám normálně každý nůž uvízl, ale my vytvoříme skutečný zářez. Ještě jeden test tvrdosti. Kladivo, jak jsem právě říkal, které je tvrdší než hřebík, vezmu ke krájení nožem. Podívej se. Tady můžeš, jak často chceš.
Booyah. Yes.
The new, easy-to-use Nikon D60 lets anyone capture a moving moment. With an interchangeable Nikkor lens for the sharp, rich images that make a Nikon a Nikon.
Got the shot. Very good.
The ultra-compact Nikon D60. And check out the highly awarded Nikon D300.
Lovely to me, yes you are. We've traveled together, we've traveled so far. Your tongue it is wise and there's love in your eyes, deep and blue. You're lovely to me, yes you are. And Venus ascending is surely your star. I've seen how you shine, but I can't make you mine. It is true. You're lovely to me, yes you are. We've traveled together, we've traveled so far. Your tongue it is wise and there's love in your eyes, deep and blue. You're a midsummer mountain blue. Heather and linden are the fruit of your womb.
No slave. I don't want you to work all day, but I want you to be true. And I just wanna make love to you, love to you, ooh, love to you. All I want to do is wash your clothes. I don't want to keep you indoors. There is nothing for you to do but keep me making love to you, love to you.
Postaráte se mě o Bobíka, prosím.
Bobika.
Bobika.
Go where they understand you. Centum.cz with an intelligent search engine.
Okay guys, I hope that you enjoy this lecture. I'm looking forward to another one. We are going to talk about public relation. For now, it's enough. I think you got lots of information. I hope that those were interesting information. If you have any question related to the today's topic, or if you have some questions related to your seminary work, don't hesitate. Write me an email, and I will try to answer as quick as possible, and also I will try to explain everything you need. Okay, thank you for your attention. Enjoy the rest of the day. Bye.